Hey there, fellow wanderers. Tonight, you find yourself stepping into the bustling heart of a medieval market. The air is thick with a medley of scents: freshly baked bread, earthy vegetables, and the tang of livestock. Around you, the sounds of the marketplace echo. Merchants loudly touting their goods, the rustle of straw underfoot, and the occasional bleat from an impatient sheep. This is not a fairy tale. It's a glimpse into a past where shopping was an adventure fraught with the challenges of survival. The sun casts long shadows as it sinks behind the thatched roofs, and a cool breeze carries the promise of dusk. You pull your cloak a little tighter, letting it shield you from the chill. Darkness falls quickly here, reminding you of the ever-present cycle of work and rest that governs the lives of the peasants. This market is not just a place of trade. It's the beating heart of the community, where news and laughter are shared along with goods. Imagine the colorsa parade of earthy browns, deep greens, and striking reds, each stall, an explosion of hues as vibrant as the personalities who inhabit them. Voices rise and fall in a chorus of haggling, each vendor eager to offload their wares before night fully descends. Coins jingle in a rare exchange of metal, but more often, goods swap hands through the art of barter. So before we dive deeper, I ask only this. If this kind of raw, unvarnished truth speaks to you, click like, hit subscribe, and leave a trace of yourself in the comments. Tell me your city, your time, your state of mind. Now, dim the lights. Let the hum of your fan blend with the wind of centuries past. Let's begin. And remember, in medieval times, even survival was a luxury. As you weave through the throng, your senses might be overwhelmed, but a part of you delights in this joyous chaos. Picture yourself spotting a stall displaying bright bundles of herbs next to plump sacks of grain. The herbal scent mixes with the yeasty aroma emanating from the baker's nook nearby, where loaves emerge from a wood-fired oven. You pass by a stall with rough wooden trinkets, small wooden dolls, simple but crafted with care. Such mementos might be all a medieval peasant could afford for their child, much like today's impulse purchases that strangely uplift a tired soul. Historians still argue whether medieval markets were more chaotic than our malls at Christmas time. The scene is set, a furious dance of people, goods, and noise. Unlike today's sterile supermarkets, this market is alive, almost sentient in its daily rhythm. You try to imagine it: no fluorescent lights, no slick marketing slogans. Shopping bags here were woven baskets, and customer service was a well-aimed joke or a frown. Every corner of the market reveals something new. Here, a blacksmith stands beside his anvil. Sparks fly as he hammers hot iron into horseshoes, tools, and occasionally a small luxury item for a wealthier townsman. His sweat mingles with soot, and his labor is as palpable as the goods he produces. Nearby, a farmer's son proudly displays cabbages and onions, their earthy scent battling with that of the nearby fish stall. The early evening begins to chill, reminding you of a time without central heating or the luxury of instant hot tea. Instead, you imagine warming yourself on a cold day with soft woolens bought at the market, perhaps from a weaver who spent days hunched over their work. The skill this takes is tremendous, almost akin to solving a Rubik's Cube without pulling off the stickers, something you might remember from your modern life. One mainstream historical fact wafts through like a whisper on the wind. In medieval England, markets were granted by royal charter. This grant was essential. It dictated when and where markets could be held, making them formal affairs often tied to the community's growth. These charters came with regulations and privileges, such as the right to collect tolls, a far cry from our click-and-pay online world. As you walk through this timeless landscape, you become acutely aware of your role as an observer rather than a participant. You are both drawn to and distanced from the realities of peasant life, a life where every coin, every piece of fabric, every bit of food was hard-won. In this space, shopping is not a chore but a visceral, grounding experience, the core of social, economic, and even political life. The sun finally dips below the horizon, casting the market in the silver glow of twilight. Shadows stretch long and lean, like reminders of a world that sleeps lightly, always on the brink of discovery or ruin. Here, in this moment, you are part of an ancient dance, where necessity and opportunity twine tighter than the ropes securing a merchant's wagon. Embrace this journey through time, acknowledging the resilience and ingenuity of those who navigated these spaces centuries ago. You might have trudged through a crowded medieval street today, but tomorrow brings new stories, new explorations. As night closes in, let the echoes of the medieval market settle your mind, knowing that even in history's clamour, serenity can be found. As the twilight air settles around the market, you find yourself drawn deeper into the web of exchanges that define this bustling centre. Your senses adjust to the fading light, and you lean in to hear the haggling over goods. The intricate dance of trade was a cornerstone of life for medieval peasants, where the barter system thrived as vibrantly as the marketplace itself. Imagine standing at a stall, clutching a basket filled not with money, but with eggs and vegetables, ready to trade for a woolen cloak or a clay pot. You smile as you watch a farmer approach the cloth merchant clad in simple linens. He carries with him the spoils of his field. The day's yield of cabbages and leeks was no mere harvest, but the currency of his commerce. Eggs, too, find their way into the bargaining mix, a potent exchange tool with a value understood beyond the reach of coins. In this world, what you produced with your hands determined your purchasing power strange when compared to today's reliance on digits and plastic cards. Every trade begins with a wave, a smile, and sometimes an exaggerated sigh. An onion for a few spools of thread, a chicken for a length of coarse fabric. The possibilities are infinitely varied, hinging on what one has to offer and the perception of need. Remember those nostalgic schoolyard days of swapping marbles? The stakes here are higher, the satisfaction more immediate when bartering yields the milk, the grain, the candles that sustain life. Flanked by the warm glow of lanterns, you overhear a playful exchange between a fisherman and a dairymaid, discussing the potential of cheese for fish. Their banter is friendly, yet firm after all. A well-bargained day could lighten the load of an otherwise heavy week. Their voices rise and fall like the sea, each counteroffer a wave rolling back to shore. And here, you may chuckle, realizing some debating skills never age. Historians still argue whether the barter system limited growth or fostered community resilience. Yet amidst these debates, a quirky tidbit surfaces. Those familiar with marketing strategies would be surprised to learn that some medieval peasants were adept at adding extras to sweeten the deal. A customer might receive an extra loaf if the baker found their smile particularly infectious, or a weaver might throw in a yard of ribbon to clinch a threadbare transaction. This was customer loyalty in its infancy, before the age of loyalty cards and points. The art of haggling was taught subtly. Apprentices learned not only the skill of their trade, but the rhythm of words needed to maintain the balance of neighborhood economies. Vocal rapport was as crucial a tool as a well-crafted plow or a sturdy ox. You pause to think perhaps your own victories in thrift store negotiations owe something to this inherited wisdom. Books and parchments are rare, sight inform those with means about the fair exchange of goods. In structured handwriting, guidelines note the trade value of an ox, the worth of a furnished table. But here, out in the open-air market, such luxuries of knowledge are secondary to the keen intuition honed over years of experience. Glancing around, your gaze falls on a lone figure, a traveller perhaps, peddling simple wooden combs and colourful dyed sprockets. With no field or flock of his own, he deals in what he crafts, managing subsistence by the delight of others and their appreciation of adornment. His presence at the market reminds you of the diversity within this economic tapestry. Peasants who traded not just food and fabric, but crafted goods that revealed the beauty hidden within utility. You absorb the scene, the flow of conversation and commerce surrounding you. Goods exchange hands as naturally as clouds drift overhead. This was living, breathing economics. In this world of trade, you recognize an ancient wisdom that sees community as a persistent solution to individual hardship. Each piece shared, each trade completed reinforces bonds within the society, securing them against the unforgiving winters and the unpredictably harsh summers. The stars begin to peek through a velvety sky, casting a serene light over the bustling evening. As you walk away from the market, the scent of fresh earth and fading smoke wraps around you like a gentle reminder of the vivacity of this barter-driven life. You realize how closely survival was tied to community, with villagers reliant upon one another just as seamlessly as eggs were traded for flour, wool for warmth. The day gives way to night, and as the market gradually disperses, you tuck away the echoes of haggled words and mirrored smiles. Content and thoughtful, you're left with the reflection that medieval shopping, though decidedly different in form, shaped the lives it touched with every necessary, ingenious transaction. As the moon casts its silvery glow over the winding paths of the medieval village, you walk through the hushed, serene landscape, leaving behind the lively Barter market. Yet, in the heart of the marketplace, or within the cramped boundaries of a cobblestone street, a different kind of trade unfolds zone that involves clinking coins instead of clucking hens. In a world where bartering was the dominant form of commerce, the sight of coins being exchanged could seem as rare as a unicorn grazing in the meadows at dawn. Gold and silver coins, though few, were treasures clasped tightly in the hands of those with access to the coin economy. As you wander, imagine yourself stumbling upon a scene unfolding around a merchant's chest, its lid cracked open to reveal glistening coins, each imbued with value, history, and the promise of more fixed transactions. Feel the weight of a medieval penny in your palm, its imagery crude yet powerful, a token of whose authority lay heavy on the land. These coins, stamped proudly with regal visages or sovereign symbols, were minted treasures crafted for standardized, reliable exchanger currency in which peasants found new opportunities to interface beyond the limitations of their immediate production. Narrow streets shelter the whispers of those whispering about having spent coin on imported luxuries or saved what little they had for fronting tax collectors. Coins represented more than just a means of trade. They were a bridge, giving access to distant lands and exotic goods, a transcultural connection, preceding the digital wire transfers and complex derivatives you know today. The hop-heavy aroma leads you to the local taverna, dimly lit refuge and unofficial bank, where jugs of ale mingle with mumbles of loan offerings. Such establishments were bastions of coin usage, where strategic tipping often eased the rigid interactions dictated by currency. With silver exchanged, generosity flowed, weaving friendships as firm as any familial bond, and representing one delightful fringe of such metal currency. Amongst this glitter, historians still argue whether the ascension of coin usage accelerated economic stability or subtly deepened societal divides. While broader exchanges became feasible, the shine of coins frequently illuminated inequality, marking the few fortunate against the backdrop of countless tilling the soil from dawn till dusk. Yet, within medieval communities, the subtle use of coin and craft could signal social mobility for savvy traders who kept an eye on coastal towns buzzing with activity and goods places like London, Paris, or the bustling Hanseatic League ports. Peasants occasionally made their way to these melting pots during life's great dances, fairs, and feast days, rare journeys that allowed for stockpiling both wares and dreams. You find yourself idly considering how the medieval currency might reflect your own monetary choices, investing towards prized items, or scrupulously revolving it for utility. Today's abstract modern investments might be the distant echo of peasants labouring to turn saved shillings into future sustenance, or ancestry-bridging heirlooms. In the tranquil dimness, as tavern doors finally close against the night, you hear tales spun of adventurous merchants carrying satchels full of exotic spices, gemstones, and silks, navigating challenges not unlike epic quests. The narratives weave coin and commodity into tapestries of ambition and perilegends of trade, enriching lives, unwinding over ale-drenched tables. Midnight blooms softly, encircling you with the ambient hum of the village bedding down for dreams. As you step further from the tavern, the soft rustle of coins fades into the quiet of the streets. Follow their trails, and let the night's peaceful hand guide your thoughts. Understand that the peasant's life was marked by resilience made concrete with every trade of grain or coin. The reflections of shimmering coins dancing in torchlight fade, but they leave tiny sparks within your imagination. Notion of medieval life rendered vivid beyond history books. You stand before the past's open window, gazing upon a world where currency mattered, but community mattered more, and where each transaction quietly resounded the enduring melody of persistence in human progress. With the dawn of a new day unfolding over the medieval village, you find yourself enveloped in the lively anticipation of market day. The vibrant frenzy begins to take shape as villagers stream from their cottages and farmsteads towards the bustling heart of commerce, brimming with anticipation and the stories of a week lived under both sun and shadow. Today is market day, and it's a kaleidoscope of sights, sounds, and aromas that transform the village into a theatre of human connection. The first light steals over the horizon, casting a golden blush on the fields and cobbles. You can almost feel the electric crackle in the air as vendors hustle to set up their stalls, each tent unfurling like a story being told right before your eyes. Imagine the clatter of wooden wheels, the laughter echoing between market stalls, a joyous cacophony that draws you into its grasp. Market days were the lifeblood of the medieval peasants' week, their vibrancy a welcome contrast to the steady monotony of everyday tasks. It is here, amidst the ever-shifting tide of heads and hands, that villagers could acquire necessities or indulgences, perhaps linger over a purchase made special by warmth of spirits and mindful exchange. Here, the air is thick with opportunity, with the promise of a purchase, of an unexpected encounter, or a profound bargain. As you stroll through crowded lanes, note the kaleidoscope of fabrics fluttering in the gentle breeze, patched cloaks mingling with vibrant silks. The sound of live music drifts by a troupe of minstrels, strikes a lively tune on lutes and drums, setting feet to tapping in time with their jigs. Nearby, the sharp scent of cider wafts from a barrel, its tangy allure calling those seeking refreshment after a morning spattered in sunlight and spectacle. Historians proudly acknowledge that market days were more than just commercial hubs. They were social crosswords, where news travelled faster than mounted messengers. In a world without newspapers, apps, or social media, the market was a human network, humming with rumour, gossip, and breaks from isolation. And true to its role, the market also became a stage for wandering players and entertainers. Imagine spotting a juggler, deftly manoeuvring batons, or a puppeteer pulling strings to make wooden marionettes dance. Children gaze wide-eyed, enchanted by merriment, the simplest gestures evoking peals of their laughter, their innocence untouched by the adult concerns of currency or supply shortage. But let's not romanticize it entirely. The practicality of market day brought with it a need for negotiation and even gentle deception. Joining the audio collage are whispers of sharp bargaining, humorous quips exchanged as tools trying to gain that crucial edge over a transaction. Beneath the friendly banter lies a keen awareness of every coin's worth, every commodity's quality, a transaction's potential to tip the week's entire balance towards security or need. Here's a quirky tidbit to linger on. Not all medieval markets operated under the promise of fairness. Records show stalls, offering the less than reliable acquisitioner would-be buyer, warned to be cautious of the pig in the poke. It remains a standing phrase, a reminder of deals that wander far from expected outcomes. Imagine, if you will, peering into that bag and finding not a prize pig, but a scrawny dog. There was never any shortage of lessons learned in bustling markets. As a peasant stows away their purchases under the angles of a woven basket, you might smile, thinking of your own visits to markets, with stalls overflowing with produce and wares shining under fluorescent lights instead of oil lamps. The ringing of digital cash registers mirrors the cadence of coins dropped into hands, an evolution wrapped within layers of centuries. Market day often spilled over into a social event, a chance for neighbours, separated by distances and chores, to gather, converse, and share tales of triumph and tribulation. You envisage farmers speaking of harvest yields over rounds of nutty bread, friendships strengthened without the need for any Zoom call technology. Slowly, the culmination of such deliveries facilitates a flow toward the meeting of kin and friends, their camaraderie, a tapestry woven from threads of both speech and action. Night descends gradually upon twinkling stalls, softening the day's colours into dusky silhouettes. This cyclical mini-festival ebbs and flows, building foundations upon social as well as economic means. In this cauldron of life, influenced by the breath of countless souls, Domain says farewell to sounds melding into muted lullabies. The echoes quiet, footsteps trailing into darkness, yet no one forgets the richness each market day brought. As you drift away, cradled by the night's comforting embrace. A gentle reminder glimmers within market day was more than exchange, more than barter. It was a festive embrace of community, a lively rhythm that both wrapped and unraveled the patchwork stories of medieval life. With its memories lingering like song notes, you retreat inward, at peace amid the stories fashioned from time and treasure. As the gentle fingers of dawn stretch across the medieval village, you sense a palpable excitement simmering in the Ira, collective anticipation for something grander than the usual market day shuffle. Today, the village metamorphoses into a stage for one of its most awaited events, the fair. This was not just a market magnified, but a jubilant convergence of trade, entertainment, and novelty that only appeared once or twice a year. You find yourself in a grand tapestry of colour and activity as the sprawling market square transforms into an open promenade of wonder. The smell of fresh hay blends with the aroma of roasting meats and sweet honey cakes, creating an olfactory feast that makes your senses tingle with sensation. Vibrant banners and flags flutter overhead, adorning stalls and guiding your path in this maze of excitement. Fairs were the highlight of a medieval peasant's year, like your annual favourite festival rolled into one. Here the familiar blended with the wondrously strange, both the known rhythm of trade and the unfamiliar dances of far-off lands. Locals eagerly anticipated these occasions, saved for them over long months, ploughing and planting, waiting for the return of the exotic merchants and their wares. Traders from diverse regions assembled under the flickering sunlight, offering goods that ranged from the dull necessity to the eye-catching luxury. Imagine yourself deftly moving through aisles, each step revealing stalls piled high with furs, spices, and silks riches unfathomable to daily villagers and, perhaps even a few curious relics from the Crusades or voyages to lands unseen. Here, the world was a lot smaller, yet felt entirely vast. Every turn brings you face to face with performers captivating eager audiences. Minstrels strum lively tunes, acrobatics defy gravity, and magicians weave mystery through tricks that baffle the minder suspended respite from the daily grind. Brightly painted puppet shows recount epic tales, sowing fancy within the hearts of children huddled before makeshift stages, cushions of hay prickling yet unnoticed. Amidst this jubilant throng lies the heart of the peasant experience, reveling in pleasures not often available, savouring the decadence of foreign sweets, and the thrill of seeing never-seen-before fabrics, with colours as rich as earthly possibility allows. Who wouldn't marvel at the luxurious texture of silk or the intricate designs on Moorish ceramics, longingly viewed in daylight you hadn't hoped to enjoy towards ownership? Fairs also served as arenas of knowledge and innovation, much like today's exposition centres or cyber-learning hubs. In between merriment, gatherers could pause to listen to itinerant scholars, maybe overhear talks of scientific marvel experienced in places like Spain, or glimpse the ever-changing political landscape. Tales wandered far from courts of power. Try to envision it. Under the weight of wagon, loads precarious goods, ideas travelled swiftly, connecting disjointed nodes of humanity. The exchange of knowledge was non-linear, much like weaving through an encyclopedia, leaving traces of itself in the warm embers of minds kindled by a cord. You overhear conversations buzzing with tales of faraway lands, merchants describing journeys fraught with danger, yet speckled with fortune, a quirky tidbit of an elephant sighting, or perhaps the gifting of an exotic bird to a local lord. It strikes a chord with how you might regale friends with stories from trips overseas or breathtaking travelogues caught through digital streams. Historians reflect on whether fairs were purely economic catalysts or social renaissance centres, places where cultures mingled briefly without barriers of tradition, religion, or creedon egalitarian microcosm amid a world hierarchical and stratified. The sun casts its final golden arcs over this eclectic gathering as fairgoers reluctantly drift away. A satisfied exhaustion weights their limbs, yet hearts brim with memories crafted from this kaleidoscope of humanity, where every sensation, every exchange, carried the imprint of a vivid, albeit fleeting, touch of magnificence. With a smile cresting your lips, you shadow their footsteps, allowing the fair's echoes to dissipate behind you. Its warmth and vibrancy leave an imprint, a testament to life's cyclical renewal and the imbrication of the ordinary with the extraordinary. The night envelopes the village, a tender cloak for sleeping dreams, still tasting the spice of adventures past. As you settle inside the soft quiet of night, you embrace the notion that, beyond mere marketplace hustle, these fairs stitched communities into a global tapestry, broadening horizons without expectation, reaffirming bonds through shared jubilation. This memory, like fair parchment unfurling, drifts into reverie and ancestors' tale, echoing through the corridors of time. As the village returns to its usual rhythm after the vibrant fair, you wander through the cobblestone streets, finding solace in the familiar nooks and corners of everyday life. This time, your curiosity leads you to the village's beating heart, the local shops and taverns. In medieval times, these were more than mere establishments. They were hubs of community life, centers where tales were spun, goods exchanged, and laughter shared over frothy mugs of ale. Stepping through the door of a quaint shop lit by flickering candlelight, you immerse yourself in an intimate world where each item tells a story, handcrafted with skill and carrying the imprint of its maker. The air is perfumed with herbs hanging in bundles from the low beams. Here, goods are shelved with purpose bundles of dried chamomile and mint, skeins of brightly dyed yarn, and worn leather-bound tomes that pass through hands more expectantly than their modern digital kin. Shopkeepers are artisans in their own right, each one a curator of life's essentials and delights. They greet you with an amiable nod, their practiced hands deftly measuring out flour or wrapping beeswax candles, as they share the latest tidbits of verifiable gossip-alleged transgressions of the indulgent local lord or the arrival of a strange traveller who spoke of lands beyond the southern hills. The whispers of wool and the soft murmur of seams guide you to a corner where vibrant fabrics muted in today's terms but splendid thenly awaiting touch. You can almost feel the rough weaves under your fingertips, each one woven with care in a tradition passed down through generations, standing proud in the face of industrial modernity's storm. Medieval taverns pulsate with life, much like today's favourite hangouts, teeming with talk and camaraderie. As you approach, sounds draw you into a space where shadows dance across wooden walls, the air alive with the warmth of bodies pressed together in shared mirth. You find a place among the low stools, savouring the hearty aroma of thick stew bubbling over the fire and the earthy tang of ale. In the tavern's glow, everyone's life is a tapestry woven with evenings, shared amidst flaring hearths and festive gatherings. Here, secrets are exchanged over the top edge of tankards, deals sealed with handclasps rather than notarized documents. It's a climate conducive to storytelling, punctuated by historic interest and overt conjecture. You'd imagine even a dragon's fire might dim against such radiant human spirit. Taverns are places where news travels faster than the merchant's horse. Picture yourself in stirring debates over royal politics or whispers of neighbouring villages, their victual exchanges more complex than any social media thread. In mingling, you absorb histories and futures alike, each voice echoing the generations past and building new roads for the times to come. Historians still argue whether such establishments represented escape or engagement in medieval societies. Was it leisure, or was it a substitute forum for working out life's messier intricacies? Perhaps within the tavern's walls, the stratagems of livelihoods collide with whimsical escapades forming alternate spaces where liberation, strategy, and fraternity aligned. This time, a quirky tidbit emerges from the tavern's hum. Medieval patrons often paid their tabs in kind, exchanging labour, produce, or crafted goods for a night's friendly debauchery. Imagine accruing a tab of stories and repaying it with the bread pulled fresh every evening from your family's oven, or mending a chair that supported countless drinkers' contemplations. The evening canvas draws its stars, and you take your leave, the taste of ale still lingering on your lips as you stroll back through the quieting streets. The tavern's light remains a beacon in the night, a promise of home without walls. Winding your way through your mind's corridors, this symphony of small shops and welcoming taverns lulls its melody within. Alive with the past's presence, you'll drift alongside the lasting imagery of chattering humanity, relieved of their burdens for a time. A narrative relationship persists here a loop eternally repeating, and now enfolds you warmly, layered with the laughter of ancestors sung softly to keep, stitched into a communal past. As the first hints of morning light break through the mist, you find yourself drawn back to the steady rhythm of the medieval village. Today, let your wanderings lead you to meet the nomadic souls whose paths weave in and out of the life fabric here traveling merchants and peddlers. These figures dash across the landscape like shooting stars, carrying with them whispers of foreign lands and the strange comforts of novelty. Picture leaf-strewn lanes where the clink of metal clasps and the soft rustle of fabric sing in harmony with birdsong. A caravan approaches, its silhouette outlined against the sky with silhouettes of donkeys or robust mules laden with wares. Each merchant, a custodian of odds and ends, a purveyor of testimonies to faraway marvels and whispered reports about wonders you can barely imagine. As you edge closer, the sound of wooden wheels crunching over gravel joins in an unplanned symphony that marks each arrival as an event. Their wares are displayed with the efficiency of a seasoned don, and you find yourself caught up in their world. Tokens from across the seas, vibrant spices from the east, delicate Venetian glass beads shimmering like captured raindrops, and finely wrought metalwork that beckons adventurously for a tale untold. These aren't just goods, they're fragments of a wider world, containing within them the aroma of intrigue, unlike the everyday offerings nearer at hand. The peddlers, more than daredevil traders, are also carriers of stories. In their eyes, you see tales carved like ancient runes, marking their journeys between peaks, villages, and harbours. Echo their narratives, tracing regions so diverse their paths wove history just as crucially as they stitched trade across communities. Imagine unrolling musky maps articulated by vivid gestures as reminders of a broader potential existence beyond the enclosing forests and fields. Engage them in conversation, and soon you're lost in a tapestry of words as intricate as the textiles they sell. For, despite roads riddled with challenges bandits lurking in darkened forests, or the abrasive unpredictability of the elements, these traders are the lifeline of novelty and connection. In their company, the village acquires a pulse tied to this external world, a breathing, vibrant continuation of a vast and ever-changing tapestry. Historians debate whether these traveling merchants were the true pioneers of medieval globalization, how much they accelerated the exchange of ideas or simply doggedly sowed the seeds of cultural diffusion. It's compelling to think that from their trade routes sprouted the desire for knowledge and appreciation shared millennia down the linear synesthetic echo of cosmopolitanism in its earliest form. Along the lanes you might overhear a peculiar story from a merchanta quirky tidbit, proclaiming how spices were once so valuable. Currency itself became redundanta, pinch of saffron, a small fortune. This price careened upwards against the odds, spurring long voyages for minuscule amounts, prized far beyond mere culinary accent. With twilight quickly gathering its skirts, the day begins to draw its curtain. Yet the bazaar of wandering peddlers continues to resonate, gliding forward into the now familiar hush of twilight. As they pack their wares, securing the fastenings and quieting the clamour of clattering pots, there is a tangible sense of anticipation. To the elsewhere and elsewhere again they will journey. Though tomorrow is their certainty, tonight they linger, enriching this moment. Imagine your amazement at watching these individuals disappear over the horizon, a promise of their return as constant as the moon drifting across a starlit sky. Their stories and wares remain behind, their presence haunting like footprints on softened ground, their temporal stay a reminder of the world's expanse and your place within it. As you settle into the quiet serenity of sleep, feel comforted by the thought that distance, once so overwhelming, is bridged by roads intertwined with tales. These merchants fade into shadow, yet linger in your dreams, sir, gentle reminder of human connection in the quiet hours before waking. A vision of unity across distances, realms, and traditions. As the first light of dawn sweeps gently over the village, a new day opens with a sense of promise in the air. With it comes the clatter and hum of life awakening into its usual routine. Amidst this familiar rhythm, you find yourself drawn once more to the heart of trade, this time to explore the structured backbone of medieval commerce. The guilds and regulations that served as the silent custodians, ensuring quality and fairness in the market. Imagine entering a bustling street where shops line the cobbled path, each representing a different trade. These businesses form the front line of a community's economic activity, their artisans busy at work, their skill reflected in the deft movements of hands, crafting goods vital to daily life. But beneath the craftsmanship lies a network of governance, the guilds. These were not merely associations, they were the bedrock of economic life, ensuring standards and mutual support. Step closer to a blacksmith's forge by its roaring fire. The warmth radiates against your skin, and the sound of hammer meeting anvil rings like a heartbeat within this lively space. The blacksmith, bent over his creation, is part of a brotherhood, a guild of skilled metalworkers, united by purpose, mutual advancement, and the essential maintenance of quality. In this medieval system, guilds held the authority to enforce adherence to standards, issuing penalties for substandard workmanship and sometimes pricing regulations, much like modern industry watchdogs. Each guild's charter harkened back to a royal privilege, its origins steeped in a dense web of tradition and authoritative permission. Guilds were guardians of their craft's integrity, mediating disputes and commissioning the training of apprentices. These young learners, under hammer blows and brewing cauldrons, absorbed secrets passed down through generations and not only trade skills, but the responsibilities of membership. Their structured hierarchy provided lenses familiar to you as echoes of today's professional organizations and unions. As you walk, you might hear whispered tales, those quirky bits of lore, of unique guild traditions, like elaborate feast days only for members, complete with ceremonial garb that documented both an artisan's pride and shared heritage in bright, symbolic embroidery. These celebrations were much like corporate events of today, fostering camaraderie and networking opportunities, albeit with a dose of medieval revelry far removed from PowerPoint presentations. According to some historians, the guilds were excellent incubators of early capitalism. The tensions between regulation and innovation perhaps mirrored the eternal dilemma: did the guilds offer protection against market exploitation, or did they stifle burgeoning innovation under the heavy mantle of tradition? Balance or bind, they remain a precursor to evolving economies. Envision yourself wandering past a baker's shop. The warm scent of bread envelopes you, a comforting reminder of both sustenance and community. The Bakers' Guild would have overseen this shop, just as eagerly as they did specialized fare. If you listen closely, you might overhear the guild members debate not just pricing, but also weight standards for loaves, ensuring fairness for all citizens, a reminder that bread, in all its forms, is both nourishment and negotiating point. Guild halls dotted towns, with a magnitude echoing their influence. Sturdy buildings, fortified by timber and stone, they stood as lofty bastions where serious discussions molded commercial journeys. Within those walls, the monotony of the everyday was sifted through and restructured into collective success stories, and with each successful venture, the community pulse surged stronger. Meanwhile, the resonance of this structure ripples out into the countryside. Farmers, under different patronage, bring fresh harvests to the town, exchanging simple produce with retailers for coin or barter in sync with guild advisories. In this interplay, legal structures meld with cultural grub, composing verses that Western commerce still recites. As the sun dips low in the sky, shadows cloaking the village in a mottled blue, you pause at the threshold between bustling reality and the soothing balm of sleep. You reflect on how these ancient structures, born out of necessity and molded by the hands of countless workers, return to cloak their artisans still, now on digital screens, yet unyielding in their pursuit of quality. In the quietude that follows, the guild's influence lingers as you drift into peaceful slumber, cementing the bonds woven between tradition and modernity, legend and life, forming the fabric of economic history that comforts you like a warm cloak upon cool nights. Here, in your dreams, the guild's influence remains, an embrace offering assurance through epochs, silently guiding you toward the dawn. With the sunrise painting the sky in hues of gold and lavender, another day in the medieval village begins. You find yourself retreating to the quieter corners, away from the lively throng of the central market, to delve into the daily necessity of acquiring life's most essential staples. Here, the art of buying food supplies unfolds, a ritual as intrinsic to survival then as your weekly grocery trips are now. You step onto the well-trodden path leading to the marketplace, navigating among villagers with baskets and bags, anticipating the day's exchanges. The scent of freshly turned earth mingles with the verdant aroma of vegetables and herbs, filling the air with the promise of sustenance. This morning ritual, repetitive yet vital, ties the threads of community in its silent exchanges. Imagine yourself at the entrance of the market, where the sounds of clucking chickens blend seamlessly with the rustle of grains being poured into sacks. It's a world where every purchase carries the weight of careful calculation. A cabbage here, a hunk of cheese there. The jingle of coins or clink of traded goods punctuates each transaction, a melody familiar to the medieval shopper just as your grocery cart's squeak might be to you. The villagers gather around a lively tableau of hustle and bustle, the centerpieces being stalls overflowing with produce from near and sometimes far. You approach one such stall, where baskets brim with apples, their skins glistening in the early light like polished gemstones. Nearby, root vegetables lie in proud heaps, all tinged with earth's deep aroma. These are the basics, the mainstays of diet: turnips, onions, and garlic, stacked enticingly, each one a building block for any meal. Historians often marvel at the medieval peasants' resourcefulness in making the most of such limited offerings. With no refrigeration and seasonal availability dictating variety, they crafted dishes that transformed simplicity into sustenance. Although potatoes, the modern favorite, had yet to reach European shores, the medieval feast was rich in grains, legumes, and oft-foraged energy sources. Listening to the chatter of market-goers, you catch snippets of recipes passed down orally, like a family heirloom. Methods for soups that draw every vitamin and strength from humble roots. Stews where a single tender piece of meat stretches out into shared nourishment. It's a culinary tradition built on necessity, driven by a frugality that today's meal preppers might recognize and admire, albeit sans the convenience of high-tech blenders. As you wander past stalls, don't miss the clusters where housewives compare notes on preserving the season's bounty. With deft hands, they trade dried herbs sparsely and sage, loving guardians of flavor through the harshest winter months. A quirky tidbit to stir curiosity into your modern imagination. Medieval cooks knew how to utilize the garden to its fullest, flavoring their dishes with the unexpected sweetness of marigold petals or the fragrant depths of constant thyme. You can imagine the kaleidoscope of efforts that went into ensuring these regular markets were well stocked. Farmers ploughed with oxen under sunless sky mornings, their backs warming gradually with dawn, transporting goods that would later feed families miles into the horizons. Sometimes, travel routes were marked merely by shadowed verges of occasional rocks, reminding travelers of eternal connectivity. Beyond the produce, the market pulses with hidden energy. Fish flicker like silver-lined leaves on worn cloths, freshly harvested from a river's bounty, while the gentle bleat of sheep echoes near the butchers, a somber reminder of the sacrifices that fill plates. These tradespeople, skilled with dexterity and charm, are as reliable as mysterious. Their domain is one intuitively navigated by the peasantry. You pause, absorbing the lesson in humility when contemplating this simple food supply ritual. Truly, a reflection of viewpoints broader than the immediate landscape, the recognition of cycles through hunger and abundance, security and need born from the earth's own steady heartbeat. As the sun sets, casting long shadows across a day spent acquiring means of sustenance, you find your thoughts turning inward, contemplating the tireless dance perpetuated by those ancient buyers and sellers. With each traded good, a new connection was woven, a bond strengthened between people and land, and tasted in every meal. Let this quietude nurture you, as sleep begins to shale over consciousness, echoing the perseverance of bygone eras. And as you nestle into a dream's embrace, imagine the stories of peasants etched into the fabric of time, nurturing both history and dreams, like seeds sown within twilight fields. Here, the cycle of sustenance continues, timeless in its advanced simplicity. As the medieval village stirs with renewed life under the gentle glow of morning, you find yourself drawn to yet another essential aspect of this timeless tapestry clothing. In an age where the line between necessity and luxury blurred with the seasons, acquiring clothing was a meticulous affair wrapped in practicality and creativity. Picture yourself among the hustle of daily chores, moving through the village where every garment worn is a reflection of both individual skill and communal resources. Unlike today, clothing for a medieval peasant was not a fashion statement but a testament to survival and ingenuity. The coarse feel of wool, the homespun texture against the skin, is a reminder of the formidable journey from sheep to fabric, a journey that took many hands and many days. Imagine stepping into the modest home of a weaver, a craftsperson whose entire world is bound within the rhythm of loom and spindle. The room is filled with the gentle click and whir of weighted threads drawn through sturdy frames. Light filters softly through windows covered with oiled cloth, illuminating vibrant dyes stored in clay pots. Vivid blues and deep red each batch of yarn, a labor-intensive symphony of color and patience, akin to the rich hues you see shelved at today's hobbyist textile shop. The medieval wardrobe was born of practicality, each item crafted to withstand the rigors of laborious life. A cloak held dual-purpose protection from elements by day, blanket by night. Every tunic, every gown was tailored to maximize the resilience of cloth, repurposed and patched long past what you might consider wearable. Historians delight in this sustainability, never-waste approach that modern, environmentally conscious movements have yet to refine fully. It wasn't all drudgery. Medieval clothing bore its own subtle elegance. Skilled hands embroidered details onto garment, simple stitches transformed raw material into an art form. Patches weren't just necessity. They evolved into contrasts and decoration, unintentional trends long before designers packaged pre-worn as high fashion. At the market, imagine crowds loitering by stalls, draped in newly woven cloth-coarse wool rubbing shoulders with rare linen imports. A woman evaluates a bolt of deep indigo wool, calculating flame against pocket, knowing too well that choice is guided by function, not desire. Only on rare occasions, perhaps a feast or festival, did villagers indulge in splurge accoutrements of lace or motley ribbons that rung with revelry's promiscuous touch. And here emerges a quirky tidbit. Medieval laws and edicts sometimes extended their rigid grip to fashion. Sumptuary laws dictated what people of various classes could wear, a statutory reminder of social and economic hierarchies worn upon sleeves as clear as any insignia. A peasant in silk? Scandalous, a breach as grievous perhaps as swiping someone's Wi-Fi today. Step back in time to see the role women played in this aspect of life. Female peasants, resourceful homemakers, guarded the household's fabric reserves, overseeing repairs and making new clothes from old. The skill to spin yarn from raw wool, weave it into fabric, then cut and stitch, a heirloom skill passed through mothers and daughters, not just for survival, but for pride in craftsmanship. By the warmth of a flickering hearth, under the stalwart beams of their homes, these women engaged in a dance of nimble fingers, transforming threads into tokens of comfort and pride. The colors of these garments told stories, natural dyes whispered of the terrain's bounty, backgrounds familiar, yet caught afresh with each pattern. As the day slips away, stained now with the quiet hues of twilight, you reflect on this medieval approach to clothing. What you see around you is a land of durable utility, where every garment worn tells a story of winter warmth, stitched with practicality and whispering with echoes of creativity. The village settles into its evening hush, the whispers of wool and the creak of wooden looms drifting along the cooling breeze. As you take your leave and retire to your silent thoughts, let them be guided by the reflection of past parallels to present, stories woven into each thread of cultural fabric that envelops you. Wrapped in this comfort, allow sleep to guide you through dreams crafted from patience and care, understanding that in every era, clothing bears witness to the life it shelters, fashioned with enduring finesse. Under the generous morning sun, the medieval village awakens, and you find yourself meandering toward the heart of another essential facet of everyday life: the acquisition of tools and household items. Just as a smartphone or kitchen gadget might be essential to your daily routine, these items were pivotal to a medieval peasant's existence, merging utility with the craftsmanship of the times. As you approach the blacksmith's forge, the air thrums with the steady percussion of hammer meeting anvil. Sparks dance like fireflies around the hulking figure of the blacksmith, who shapes glowing metal with a practiced rhythm. The heat is palpable, pressing against your skin, its intensity matched only by the skill wielded to fashion raw iron into axes, knives, and plough stools that lay at the heart of agricultural life. Each clang resounds like a heartbeat, affirming the village's pulse. Without these essential tools, surviving the unyielding demands of the land would be nearly impossible. Peasants may have bartered goods for these precious items, grains or livestock, perhaps as the blacksmith's work turned rugged practicality into a form of artistry that resonated far beyond the village borders. Imagine the wooden cart creaking under the weight of gathered produce, its wheels and axles a testament to the carpenter's precision. This, the very backbone of local mobility, stood resilient against ruts and rough terrain. Without proper tools, repairs were as fleeting as the wind. Yet, with skill and the sturdy assurance of the workshop, a day's toils became more fluent, more feasible. In the kitchen, you'd find tools reflecting a similar measure of importance. From clay jars fermenting ales to wooden bowls and spoons carved smoothly from nearby forest bounty, artisans crafted each item with thoughtfulness. The focus was on function, yet somehow beauty found its way into curves and edges dulled with time. Historians highlight the innovation present even in these tools' rotational querns for milling grain into flour, or intricate looms transforming thread into cloth. These innovations revealed both the efficiency and ingenious spirit of the people, resourcefulness seeping through every age. As you wander past these workshops, you stumble upon a quirky tale, perhaps narrated by the cartwright, about a plough that was said to be cursed turning fields asunder in crooked paths. Though folklore, stories like these blended with a grain of truth, underscoring the vital role every tool played in the balance of life. In homes surrounded by prosperity, marked in measured turns of the wheel, villagers relied upon their tools to prepare fields and gardens, to build and maintain homes, to keep fires burning through dreary winters. Their tangible utility manifested in every fold to cut, every furrow to sow, breathing life into the cycle of existence. These tools were not mere objects. They were companions tied to the earth, forged in fire, bound by craftsmanship and community need. Possession of such tools was a status in itself, a sign of preparedness for both planting seasons and harvests, a testimony to the march of seasons lined like ribbons upon Earth's axis. In the quieter moments of the day, you can see peasants gather to trade stories of the newest tool acquired, sharing instructions and secrets on how best to wield them. Much like today's chat rooms and forums, where like-minded enthusiasts discuss gadgets, these face-to-face knowledge exchanges bound communities together, elevating wisdom gained through experience. As the day edges toward evening's embrace, and the world begins to relinquish its hold, take note of how these simple tools carved the narrative of shaping them. Literally, one task at a time, amidst sweat and spirit, when you drift into slumber's soothing embrace tonight, let thoughts of wooden beams shaped by gentle hands and metal hardened by flames wrap you in their quiet wisdom. They resound with simplicity and efficiency, finding rhythm in your heartbeat, a melody as old and unwavering as the human desire to create and conquer the physical world. Here, dreams born of practical mastery and innate resilience spin their own veils of comfort, guiding you ever faithfully toward the glow of a new dawn. As the morning sun gently spills across the medieval village, you drift toward the marketplace once more, fueled by curiosity about the occasional indulgence into luxury items and trinkets. In a world where the mundane nature of daily survival takes precedence, the allure of obtaining something non-essential sparkles like rare jewels in a land of necessity. Here, amidst the stalls where grains and tools are traded, you'll find the enchanting presence of goods that represent not just commerce, but aspiration. Imagine walking through rows of wares that captivate the senses. Glistening pieces of jewelry cast with a silversmith's finesse, vibrant ceramics dyed with hues of cobalt and green, and delicately crafted trinkets that whisper tales of distant shores and grander lives. These luxury items, though scant and coveted, could offer a precious slice of joy and beauty into a peasant's life, much like the rush of pleasure at purchasing that extravagant coffee or artisan loaf today. It isn't simply about the item, it's the transformation it hints at, the assertion of an identity beyond the toil and earth. pause at a jeweller's stall where intricate silver brooches and pendants hang like moonlit drops, their craftsmanship pulling you into a world of metal spun to mimic nature's grace. Possessing even one such item was not just a luxury, but a story narrative's smiths braided into the very folds of metal. In a village where money was scarce and coinage rarer still, securing such tokens often involved a complex tapestry of savings, bartering, or even crafting oneself something cherished from sourced materials, a symbol, not just of status, but of personal triumph and the tiny rebellion against the mundane. Historians savor the acknowledgement that even medieval peasants sought respite from the uniformity of their garments and lives, seeking out modest glimpses of luxury, no matter how infrequent, aiming to cast magic over modest cottages through pottery, depicting fantastical beasts, or simply glaze to bring vibrancy to grey days. A quirky tidbit crops up in soft murmurs. Glass beads were once so cherished that they served as coins in transactions across some medieval markets. Visualize beads strung together, their luminous colors trapped within glass like fragments of the frosty Azurian sky. Imagine rightly the delight mirrored when an ornate enamel box was exchanged, a treasured image coming alive, or the newfound warmth wrapping purchasers around plaids, festooned with meticulous weaving, a testament to the vivid dreams inhabiting the corners of their reality. Among the traders, whispers flow of priceless wares, even more unattainable silken threads, likely to sit in treasure boxes, awaiting league-laden ships' crossings, where demand multiplies sixfold. The wealthy traveled them via trunk and merchant, heralding the first global appetites that might resonate feebly as influences forerun today. For children, toys akin to carved wooden knights or dolls sewn with leftover scraps of cloth could ignite boundless imagination. Such trinkets turned the mundane corners of a field or yard into kingdoms of possibility, reminding you of the simple bliss an unexpected find can evoke. As dusk gently settles over the marketplace, the fading amber light caresses these objects, casting long shadows as they gracefully beckon to be cherished, pampered, and woven into the lives of their new owners. The villagers disperse, returning to homes carrying tokens, encasing whispered dreams and quiet rebellion against monotony. As nightfall drapes its velvet over the village, you settle into the soft, inviting abyss of dreams. Consider that while luxury was rare for a peasant, it was incontrovertibly woven into their desires. Reminder that aspirations, no matter how modest, remain steadfast. These iridescent visions dance and twirl across your slumber, guiding you towards an understanding that amid the struggle, the pursuit of beauty flourishes, undeterred, etching aspiration into every corner of time. As the sun peeks through the early morning clouds, casting gentle light upon the awakening village, you journey through the winding paths of history to discover a tantalizing thread woven through the fabric of medieval life spices. In an era where everyday meals were simple and ingredients scarce, the arrival of spices from distant lands brought a hint of magic, transforming the mundane into the extraordinary. Crouching by the warmth of a kitchen hearth, imagine the scent of cinnamon and cloves mingling with the earthy aroma of stone-ground grains. Such exotic fragrances were beacons of culinary elevation, carrying with them whispers of lands unimaginable to most peasants, where spices were as prized as gold and sometimes even used as currency. Enter the bustling marketplace, where traders guard their precious spices as closely as any treasure. These goods, mere pinches, traded at values reaching dizzying heights. A small amount of pepper could swell the heart with joy and affirm one's status as someone intimately connected with the richness beyond everyday life. A sweet spice measured not merely in grams but in status and stories. Historians agree that not only were spices unrivaled enhancers of the medieval diet, they also signified power and influence, trickling beyond markets into banquets and guild halls. A hearty stew transformed with saffron was not merely a meal. It was a revelation, as though the sun itself had seeped into your bowl. Such experiences fueled the dynastic fires, leading to entire exploratory missions across unknown seas, much like the pursuit of today's newest superfoods. In this era, you could overhear fervent tales about the distant origins of these spices speculations, often more colourful than any truth. The man with a peppercorn pouch becomes the traveller of imagined realms, capturing imaginations as vibrantly as he might capture a trader's ear, until demand solidified legends beyond embroiderist's thought. A quirky tidbit to digest. Saffron, valued nearly equally with gold in weight, colored the food as much as it blessed the palate. Its use was imbued with luxury akin to only the highest echelons dotting of vibrant yellow, stirring even simple dishes into royal indulgence. Imagine sprinkling crushed rubies over mundane fare, awakening forgotten spirits within each dining peasant. Ginger or nutmeg were soldiers for rumored health benefits, while the modern knowledge emboldens you with quaint truths. These exotic seeds or roots relieved maladies vital, dithering spirits or cold rebounds all, happily served between chewing decisions and ties beyond caste or creed. Sailing on the sea of senses, you find yourself buoyed by the knowledge that spice traders were the alchemists of their day, mixologists of flavors that defied borders, sustaining voids drawn when faith was too easy to rob from souls line poised. From the stalls, the call of the spice merchant reaches you, promising an unforgettable palate journey, the likes of which no earthly distances might measure. The notes of dried chili left behind on Barter's symbolic flourishing from dark tent corners, woven into wooden threads of explosive fragrance in flowers, perched around without hesitation. Their legacy, craft brewed best from passion, encased resistance, reliance on resilience exemplified. Come evening, with the marketplace hushed and pipers' melodies folding back to twilight, carrying cherished spices home becomes a relic as well, for stored beneath floorboards remain resistant pockets of foreign distillations, imbued with soul-warming coziness, bracing against muted bitterness cast by continent or climate. Night pulls her gentle cloak across the season, and as sleep descends, you find the senses cascading amidst a medley of spice transcontinental voyages of taste, lightening the burden of reality. You are comforted, knowing that while centuries have passed, our intrinsic quest for flavor, meaning, and connection transcends time, and may it forever lend vigor to ordinary experience spun through the tapestry of dreams. As dawn stretches across the medieval village, casting soft light over cobblestone paths and thatched roofs, the day begins with a sense of quiet urgency. Today, you find yourself in the company of the remarkable women who navigate the marketplace, masters of a subtle art that shapes the household's fortunes. Shopping. In a world where resources were scarce and choices few, the deftness of women in managing the household budget becomes a captivating tale of resilience and influence. Picture the scene as you accompany them. Baskets in hand, dressed in practical layers, each step through the village, an exercise in calculation and community. With a nod to fellow villagers and a gentle smile to traders, these women embodied the heart of domestic expertise, their roles as critical to survival as any that required physical labor in the fields. As you follow, you observe their skillful balancing act wielding the power of savvy negotiation over the goods they procure. Whether bartering for a plump chicken or choosing between fabrics, they know precisely the worth of every item, both economically and socially. Their strategies are a blend of tradition, experience, and a dash of intuition, not unlike the bargaining prowess you might employ when scouting the best deals today. Historians reflect on the impact of these women, whose everyday decisions echoed within the broader socio-economic fabric. While men might have held formal power, it was in the market where women subtly stretched the boundaries of influence, making choices that decided the family's comfort, security, and occasionally, their splurges. Amid this, you note the kaleidoscope of items on their lists. Staples like grains, flowers, and vegetables, to household essentials crafted from skilled optics. Each choice was prudent, reflecting both immediate needs and the foresight required to weather forthcoming weeks. A piece of cloth might serve several roles, evolving from mantle to patchwork, and finally catching drips as a rag. These women embodied thriftiness, a mindful craft echoing through ages past into sustainable practices applauded today. A quirky tidbit arises, adding color to your journey. In medieval times, some women utilized their market trips for clandestine gatherings, sharing herbal remedies or staying abreast of clandestine whispers about local events. Such interactions weren't merely social, They were vital conduits for the exchange of knowledge and support systems among female networks. Moving through the lanes, observe how some of these women contributed to the household income by selling their creations-embroidered linens or hand-spun yarn, a dual role finely balancing both consumption and production. The perennial circle of procurement and provision wove together communities that sustained a larger web overriding individual circumstance. You can almost hear their conversations, a blend of barter and banter, ranging from the health of crops to the quality of the fabrics they examine with expert hands. It is through such exchanges that news and innovations were shared, often leading to the introduction of new weave patterns or culinary spicer, vibrant community, bulletin board, decades before the invention of the printing press. As the sun marks its arc across the sky, the scene gradually shifts, with baskets now filled, balancing both life's necessities and cherished treasures. Retracing steps through familiar alleys, these women return with the bounty of their efforts, proof of their acumen, of the subtlety governed beneath layers of time and societal constraint. With evening approaching and the market winding down, you take a moment to appreciate the roles these women played. While their contributions were often unseen, their impact resounded within the homes they nurtured and reached far beyond, crafting a legacy that history acknowledges with silent respect. They were the architects of daily resilience, navigating the nuances of life's unpredictable tapestry. As twilight envelops the village in its tender embrace, you slip quietly into slumber, carried by the gentle strength of voices past. Alongside dreams embroidered with wit and wisdom, you find solace in understanding that even in an age dominated by men, women deftly wielded influence that transcended the marketplace, leaving imprints on history that no shadow could erase. In the profound quietude of night, their stories echo, a formidable tapestry whispering strength across time's continuum. As the warm hues of sunrise bathe the medieval village, you step into another day, where the familiar routines of life take on a critical dimension with the shadowy presence of taxation and tithes. In a world where every resource was precious and livelihood demanded constant care, these obligations weighed heavily upon villagers, an unwelcome yet inescapable reality. Picture yourself among the villagers as they move about with purposeful intent, preparing for the inevitable visits of tax collectors. The air hangs with an almost tangible tension, the faces around you painted with a blend of resignation and defiance. Taxes could appear like unwanted guests at a feast necessary, yet never wholly welcome. Their collection was as much a part of life as the harvests themselves. Most peasants couldn't escape this obligation, their dues a medley of produce and labour, coins rare and begrudgingly handed over. The tax system relied heavily on output crops or livestock, and exacting toll for those who already uneasily rode the knife's edge between sufficiency and scarcity. For some, it could mean surrendering as much as a tithe, a tenth, of what little they managed to cultivate or rear. Historians paint a vivid picture of these tax collectors who were notorious characters. Often appointed by the lord of the manor, they roamed the villages, keeping detailed records on rolls of parchment and implicating those who failed to pay in full. Their presence evoked as many curses as some called them necessary evils, others plain tormentors. As you walk these cobbled lanes, a quirky tale might come to your ear. One tax collector, so eager in his pursuit, statically claimed even a sunrise worth of land, suggesting that repose required repose's oninga hyperbolic reminder of the lengths those empowered might go. This idea might tickle the modern mind, contrasting nicely with today's tax return season, waiting for unseen refunds. The church, too, played a significant role in collecting tithes, sometimes exasperated when peasants brought forth offerings too meagre to meet the 10% demand. Yet these offerings adorned altars, underscoring the intertwining of spiritual and temporal loyalty obligations. The ecclesiastical demand for tithes, some claimed, was one way to secure divine favor, ensuring the continued blessing and protection crucial in a time demanded by superstition and faith alike. The remnants of architecture remind you of how palisades and fortified keeps manifested the power sustained through such taxes, an entity, discreetly commanded and revered, hinting at its power with lordly scoops at the harvest or terraced castles over brooding kingly plots. Observe how, in spite of this burden, villagers tried deftly to manage their obligations. They strategized income, one for duty, one for sustenance. Skillful bargaining might have delayed a taxman, buying days or provisions. Quick wit came as naturally as might clever gardening, all under whispered prayers. Today's writers might jest that if taxes were stories, the peasantry wrote warily, maybe with a tear or two safe-harboured between spirited admissions. As noon casts its golden glow across fields and village roofs, these machinations of medieval bureaucracy play out, inscriptions carved on ledger slates, staining lives like scores, setting the strings pull of some vast, unseen orchestration. Often it was enough to survive. The burden carried until sunset shrank the tangible horizons beyond carts' heaving silhouettes. As the dusk descends and the collection day finally closes, villagers return to what remains of their goods, assessing where pieces stand after the toll taken. They draw close around fires, a fortress of camaraderie forming against the night, where stories of past triumphs amid tax day's woes are exchanged, a delicate resilience fostering unity. In the still embrace of evening, as stars appear like silent watchmen, allow your thoughts to drift into gentle dreamscapes. Understand that in the quiet strength of medieval resolve, the delicate dance of lives met taxes with as much dignity as daring. Across peaceful seasons and amidst soundless whispers of twilight, you recognize the commonality of their struggles, calling softly to you through pages unwritten, lingering through layers until morning breaks new along the next bend. As the medieval village stirs to life under the gentle caress of dawn, a profound presence weaves subtly through the fabric of daily commerce religion. The marketplace, with its cacophony of trade and textures, stands under the silent scrutiny of the church, whose influence shapes not only the moral landscape, but also the practical rhythm of buying and selling. Today, you delve into the sacred undercurrents that flow beneath the market's vibrant surface. As you wander among the stalls, admiring the array of goods from vibrant fabrics to fresh produce, it becomes clear how the church's guiding hand is felt throughout. Merchants open their stalls only after seeking divine blessing, their success measured not purely by coins or goods, but by the temperance and faithfulness they exhibit. The pealing of church bells, their resonant chimes marking the hours, dictates the ebb and flow of activity, calling villagers to prayer and reminding you of faith interwoven with commerce. Imagine how Sundays transform the bustling heart of the market into a tableau of stillness and contemplation. Trade suspends its frenetic dance, and villagers are drawn toward the churches, spires a beacon of spiritual duty. Ceremonies here fortify the soul like daily bread, offering spiritual nourishment against the uncertainties of medieval life. You observe villagers praying not only for bountiful harvests but for fairness in all dealings, echoing appeals heard today within the digital marketplaces of worldwide commerce. Historians highlight the intricate ties that existed between sacred duties and secular transactions. The church was a tremendous landowner, wielding both spiritual and temporal power, with tithes supporting not only priests and parishes, but the vast ecclesiastical titanic organism whose influence spiraled throughout Europe. These taxes funded not just the care of holy relics, but often local enterprisey, paradoxical cycle, creating echoes within the contemporary structure of philanthropy. The church's influence also extended to fair trade standards, and ethical negotiations a forerunner to today's consumer protections. From their pulpits, priests delivered homilies, extolling the virtues of fair weights and measures, encouraging conduct that honored both God and neighbor. This moral compass, though wreathed in religious language, engendered a paradigm articulated through life's lesser transactions, foreshadowing modern commitments to corporate social responsibility and ethical practices. As you stroll further along this amalgamation of sacred and secular, a quirky tidbit bubbles to the surface. Some monasteries were famed for their brewing prowess, their ales and ciders prized far beyond their cloistered walls, leading to cheerful debates over the best brew at markets far and wide. Such ecclesiastical products entered the secular realm, trading divinity for delight, an earthly seasoning savory as any indulgence. With the passage of time and today's intrinsic bubble wraps cast through hallowed facades, You'd witness festivals where church and market intersected through solemn processions and bursting fairs on saints' days. Ceremonies marking these occasions not only blessed but celebrated life's abundance, communities thriving on shared joy, where felled light seeks oaths along dew-hugged swathes. Observing this vivid interweaving of faith with daily commerce, you see the church's presence as both omnipresent authority and nurturing guardian, its influences both overt and whispered. Through church-sponsored charity, the poorest were offered relief alms that allowed market participation, albeit sometimes with strings bolstered by gold-leafed gilt caskets or incense-laden respect. As the day recedes into the comforting twilight, market stalls close, their goods tucked away until tomorrow's renewed testament of trade and trust. Villagers embark along their paths, their way lit by faith's enduring palette of continuity and reflection. When you settle into the quiet embrace of night, let dreams unfold their gentle tendrils, weaving stories of human connection and divine influence. Recognize that in a world where religion offered not only solace but guidance, the power of belief transcended the pages of history, sculpting lives through the woven tapestry of the sacred and quotidian, a continual dance that remains echoed within modern thoughts, faith's pale pulse abiding despite time's shallow ebb. As dawn unfurls its gentle light over the medieval village, your feet carry you towards the heart of craftsmanship and artistry, to delve into the world of local craftsmen and the artisan wares that adorned everyday life. In an era where mass production was an unimagined concept, the labor and skill infused into every handmade piece spoke volumes of human dedication and community value. Step into the modest yet bustling workshop of a potter. The earthy aroma of clay envelopes you, as the artisan's hands deftly mold shapeless globs into vessels of utility and beauty. You watch as spinning wheels animate into a dance, their whirring joined by the rhythmic thump of hand-sculpting forms that, once fired, achieve a balance of function and grace. Each piece is unique, the potter's personality and prowess etched into the patterns, winding around these simple yet elegant creations. Alongside the potter's domain, stroll past the workshop of a woodworker. The rich scent of pine wood mingles with the clean, fresh air. Here, every tool has its place and purpose, from chisels to saws, all working in harmony to transform logs into tables, chairs, and intricately carved chests, each one telling a story in its grains and knots. Using techniques honed over time and passed through generations, these artisans shape the very fabric of domestic life, not unlike how craftsmen today create bespoke furniture or pieces of art that speak to both tradition and innovation. Historians highlight the significant role these craftsmen played, providing not just necessary items, but also enriching the visual and cultural landscape of medieval life. Their workshops were centers of creativity, feeding the lifeblood of trade and economy from one bustling market to the next. Unlike today's factory lines, medieval production thrived on individual artistriac. Item crafted by hand was imbued with a soul, a testament to human creativity, flourishing amidst the routine rigor of subsistence and survival. A delightful tidbit emerges in your wandering thoughts. Among these artisans were often the bellmakers, whose chiming handiwork dotted the landscape, guiding lives in rhythm with time's subtle march. Their creations, sometimes commissioned for churches or town halls, became icons, encompassing the aspirations of communities, while their reverberations reached into the hearts of both modest hamlets and burgeoning towns. Imagine a world where every spoon, every plate, and every candle holder was touched by the artisan's hand, contributing to a vibrant tapestry of livelihood and creativity. The goods made weren't simply objects, but tangible connections between individuals and the spirit of craft. This tactile connectivity resonates strongly with today's rise in artisanal markets and handmade goods that seek to recapture authenticity in an increasingly digital age. Wandering past the market stalls, you note the artisan wares that fill them trays of handcrafted jewelry glistening in the mid-morning sun, each bead carefully strung, each pendant meticulously engraved. Tracing the enchanting outlines of leather goods, you understand that medieval artisans combined skill with inventiveness, using materials sourced locally to create items both durable and beautiful, items that would accompany their owners through the storms and sunlight of everyday existence. As the sun sinks lower on the horizon, the artisan's day ends, yet their impact lingers. Each carefully crafted item leaves behind imprints of dedication and yesterday's know-how, marriage of necessity and art that remains unbroken by time. As twilight gently nudges the day toward rest, let your thoughts linger on these simple workshops, on the wheel's steady rotation and the chisel's sharp precision. Within the night's calming embrace, appreciate the enduring legacy of these medieval craftsmen. In dreams fashioned from laughter wrapped in the aroma of fresh clay and wood shavings, you'll find that the stories they told with skill and purpose continue to resonate as shared narrative, echoing through the corridors of time, inspiring creativity in the hearts of today's artisans and dreamers alike. With the first light of dawn brushing gently over the village, your steps turn towards a realm shrouded in mystery, where the medieval holds entrancing secret shelf and apothecary. In a time when modern medicine lay beyond the horizon, villagers relied on an intricate tapestry of herbal knowledge, concocted remedies, and time-honored traditions to maintain health and well-being. Imagine yourself stepping into an apothecary's modest abode, where the air is thick with the mingling fragrances of dried herbs and pungent tinctures. Shelves line the walls, each brimming with jars containing remedies whose whispered promises blend science and superstition into hope. Here, the apothecary, a figure both revered and mysterious, bridges the natural world and human ailment, dispensing advice and potions with practiced hands. In this dimly lit sanctuary, you marvel at the array of colorful potions and powders, each with its own lore of origin and efficacy. Some are believed to cure maladies of the body, from headaches to joint pain, while others are crafted to ease the mind or spirit, amid a world perpetually pressured by uncertainty. These elixirs are the precursors to the pharmacy's rows of neat boxes and bottles, their contents infused with the chance of relief. Historians note the blend of philosophy and practicality embodied in these medieval healers, who employed a combination of herbal remedies, rudimentary surgery, and celestial observations. Their methods, though often rooted in trial and error, laid foundational stones for today's empirical approaches. They navigated the complexities of human anatomy and nature's bounty with as much artistry as science, striving to heal within the blessed limitations of their epochs. Even amid this negotiated science, a quirky tidbit of lore emerges. The use of mandrake roots, said to shriek when pulled from the earth, featured prominently in apothecary collections and was traditionally garnered with the aid of helpful Canaanese superstition, endearing in its vivid narrative. As you continue your exploration, you come across villagers consulting the apothecary, seeking remedies for ailments that might trouble the hushed corners of life. Whether requesting poultices or carefully crafted tonics, each inquiry weaves together tales of ailments confirmed by weather, diet, and age. The apothecaries, ever so tactfully, dispense their potions with whispered advice, akin to modern pharmacists guiding customers through a matrix of contemporary choices, bolstered by emerging studies and cautions. The reliance on nature's cures politics, laced with elements such as sage, lavender, and honey, entwines the villagers' lives tightly with the land drawing on gardens cultivated not just for food, but for thriving health. These medieval remedies echo into present-day wellness rituals, harmonizing today's essential oils with time-spanning ties that veil contemporary advances. Imagine in the shadowed kitchens and gardens, where roots and flowers are carefully harvested, peeled, and crushed. Infusions are made by hands both young and experienced, each straining for medicinal purpose while providing sought-after diversion, aiding belief and irresistibly marking memory rhythm beyond seasons forget. As night ascends, wrapping the village in a tranquil shroud, the apothecary's glowing windows stand as comforting beacons. Yet their glow is shrouded with enough mystery to compel whispers and shared tales within the tight embrace of community, leaving intruders wondering whether dreams are born from tinctured potions concocted by moonlight or tangible ailments traced by daylight verve. Settling into the quiet calm of evening, let your thoughts drift over the articulations of herbal braves, claiming time-bound legacies alongside changing landscapes, folding one upon another, as surely as leaves yielding beneath the weight of night. Under the gentle care of Dream's watch, comforted by the enduring entwine of human endeavor with nature's bounty, experience the eternal cycle of seeking wholeness, told in soft echoes through nightly serenades and daylight's chorus, a dance of healing that transcends epochs, yin and yang alike. As the village awakens to the crisp air of the new morning, the cycle of life spins its wheel, guided by the ever-present hand of nature. Today, you journey into a reality as constant as the stars' seasonal variations that dictated the rhythms of shopping and survival in medieval times. As summer days drift lazily into autumn crispness, you walk among villagers whose very existence hinges on understanding and adapting to the ebb and flow of nature's gifts. Picture yourself strolling through the village market, now alight with colours that echo the changing foliage. Baskets overflow with the final bounty of summer garden plump tomatoes, glossy zucchinis, and clusters of herbs, offering a last burst of vivacity. The air feels simultaneously brimming with vitality and tinged with an edge of urgency, for with autumn come preparations for the long winter months ahead. Each season holds its own market treasures and trials, shaping the availability of goods and, consequently, the style of village life. In summer, the abundance spills over, a mosaic of flavors and textures, each whispering invitations to feast and fortify. But by the time autumn paints over the horizon, villagers turn to stockpiling, like modern-day shoppers eyeing sales and bulk buys, aware that choices made now echo far into icy-winded days. Historians acknowledge that success hinged not only on harvest yield, but on strategic skill. Smoking meats, drying fruits, storing roots. Methods born from necessity mirrored the diligent precision of medieval ingenuity, subtle transmission of lessons etched into the very hands that carried them forward, much like today's food preservation, endeavors that capture seasonal bursts within glass jars. Among the villagers, you hear the rich cadence of voices sharing tips on preserving not just food, but time-honored wisdom. Women gather apples for cider, and men stack wood for kindling. These activities are as vital as they are communal social bonds, woven anew through labours that harness the full circle of Earth's eternal turning. A delightful season-bound tidbit bubbles up amid your musings. For medieval shepherds, spring had double delight, not merely marking new life, but providing fresh, milk-fueled delights like cheesy, merry herald of nature's generosity, unfurling in Epicurean blessings. It shows that joy, bolstered by plenitude, remains a constant yearning coursing through your own seasonal indulgences today. The market offers a contrasting tableau as winter grips the land. Twilit skies press lower, and stalls reflect the starker palette of scant offering shelves cleared by necessity, fatigue-warming hearts that recall golden autumns past. Thus, humble staples of grain, lentils, and salted fish bear the weight of simple sustenance in colder climes, bearing witness to survival, sculpted in sharp relief. Throughout history's continuum, villagers resisted the chill through hearty porridge or comforting stews that captured the stored echoes of summer's bounty-connecting palates to experience garnered through millennia. While today's conveniences bring produce with scant regard for season, medieval sensibilities enforced a savoured sparseness you might find thrilling as slow as steaming pot pies cooled by tardy nights. As evening draws its cool cloak over the market, villagers depart with their carefully chosen stores, each item in their basket an act of foresight, a promise of warmth and nourishment, much like the provisions gathered by ancestors whose footsteps echo softly through the centuries. In the calm embrace of evening, you drift toward reflecting on the inextricable bond between life and land. These seasonal dances sing silently, whispering their wisdom across forgotten trails beneath moonlit paths. As you turn to embrace the embrace of sleep, let the natural harmony of Earth's pulse linger with Yuan, understanding that every step through times remembered or dreams half-bidden encircles life's firmament, crafting cyclic echoes where human resilience and nature's grace elegantly entwine. As dawn's first light gently unfurls across the medieval village, the day unveils a landscape that reminds you of the layered social fabric woven through every transaction. Today, you step into the realm where power and status intertwine with everyday shopping, guiding the choices available based on social hierarchies that defined medieval life. As you walk through the marketplace, it becomes clear how the structures of class and birthright dictate much of what unfolds before you. From peasants to nobility, each class carries distinct privileges and constraints that ripple through their acquisitions and interactions. The village, a microcosm of the broader feudal system, offers a vivid tapestry where identity is as much a currency as coin or barter. Imagine peasants mingling in the bustling streets, where practicality governs every purchase, yet even amidst such routine, each villager's standing determines not just what they buy, but whom they buy it from. The hierarchy is tangible, a ladder from which access, opportunity, and even wares cascade or trickle, as the case might be. Yet, resilience often sparkles within these structures, as peasants turn necessity into innovation, resourcefulness becoming their mark, much like those who make more with less today. As you stroll past stalls laden with goods, observe the subtle distinctions that separate the classes. In dress and demeanor, these differences speak volumes. Coarse woolen garments contrast with the richer fabrics that higher means afford. For the noble, the market offers silks from distant lands and spices that speak of wealth and exploration, their purchases more a reflection of status than need. The historian's interest often centers not solely on goods, but on how consumption patterns illuminate societal frameworks. In this era, sumptuary laws attempted to curtail luxuries amongst the lower classes, maintaining clear boundaries in the societal order, a nuanced dance, as intricate today as it was then. Such laws meant that those of lower status couldn't even aspire toward items like fine furs or lavish adornments, echoing modern debates about consumer access and cultural capital's value. A fascinating and quirky tidbit is how peasants occasionally circumvented these societal boundaries through craft. Clever artisans sometimes crafted imitations of forbidden luxuries, using available materials, ingenious replicas of high-status items that stretched the definition of honest imitation versus deceit. One could imagine this embodiment of aspiration finding parallels within today's dupe culture, where consumers seek the stylish without the expense. Beyond individual endeavors, notice how societal class impacts entire market ecosystems. Wealthier patrons influence prices and demand, indirectly setting trends that lower classes cannot ignore. Precursors to designer labels, caste desire held unreachable for the masses. A masterclass in persuasion, seducing silently narrated dreams until centuries' lone reality, liveries glimpse dawn. Experience how lordly patrons may bypass the marketplace entirely, their needs serviced by private merchants and deliveries, a precursor to modern conveniences we take for granted in online shopping's discreet joys, where wealth dictates immediacy and exclusivity. Even within the bounds of medieval hierarchies, social mobility is not entirely absent. Journeys of determination reveal threads where peasants, through craft or service, earn wealth and status beyond initial confines. Such stories, though rare, reflect the tapestry's flexibility, not of fabric, but of potential, where dreams stitch incremental patches over daunting limitations. As sunset descends, casting long shadows across a day spent navigating the intricacies of class and commerce, the village quiets. Amid scents drifting lazily through shuttered stalls, villagers head homeward, their paths retracing those of generations of choreography, penned within pitch and bloom, persistent through centuries. In the tranquility of evening, your thoughts wander toward the enduring dance of social hierarchy. Sleep comfortably within the understanding that history's hierarchy, though a formidable constraint, also inspired resilience and ingenuity. Let these insights accompany you into slumber, carrying forward the stories and lessons of yesteryears, where humanity's spirit danced ever on the brink of transformation. Rhythm echoed attentively beneath the timeless stars. As the medieval village stirs to life beneath the soft caress of dawn, you find yourself once more woven into its intricate fabric, this time investigating the shadowy spaces of its vibrant marketplace where crime and security meld. Amidst the bustling stalls and the melodic hum of trade, an undercurrent of unease lingers, whispering of theft, deceit, and the ever-present pursuit of justice. As you walk past the assembled booths, the scene unfolds before you like a tapestry where everyone plays a role. The delicate balance between opportunity and trust hangs in the air as merchants arrange their wares with a watchful eye. you sense the vigilance that permeates their every action. This is a world where goods are as exposed to the elements as they are to prying Hansar collection of tempting treasures that serve as an open invitation for those inclined towards less than honest inclinations. Consider how medieval market stalls, bustling and vibrant, presented both a livelihood and a vulnerability. Merchants relied on community integrity, while also creating their small defenses against dishonesty. Coins could be bit to test authenticity, scales inspected to ensure fairness, and always a keen watch for furtive movements amid the crowder timeless games still played in today's marketplaces, albeit with digital ciphers and vigilant cameras. Historians often reflect upon the ingenuity of medieval traders, who devised various methods to protect themselves from nefarious deeds. Among these early attempts at security were the use of locking chests and employing trusted peers to work as hawk-eyed sentinels against thievery. Many shops were fortified with wooden shutters to be closed at night, a precursor to today's security systems clattering into place with metallic insistence. Tracking through the layered tales of crime's vintage weave, a charming tidbit floats. Medieval markets had their own forms of justice's whift and communal. In the bustling aisles, if someone were caught stealing, they might find themselves subjected to public shaming, such as being tied to a market cross or forced to carry the weight of their misdeed in more creative, unforgettable ways. This bit of theatre often rivaled, not surpassed, the scandalous news fictionally spun from today's tabloid conjecture. Spicing the air, you hear the laughter of two merchants, recalling an infamous prank where bags were bewitched, seemingly swallowing up hands and goods alike. Jest played perhaps to demonstrate the unspoken commerce treaty between kin or neighbour of time's reminding, where laughter, too, proved uncanny deterrent. Conversely, medieval legislation evolved to encapsulate greater security practices, where market criers and appointed officers might patrol to impose order on this spirited avenue. Town charters sometimes authorized market courts, allowing townsfolk a space in which to air grievances and assess fines. The community would step in as jurors, a wholesome, albeit occasionally corruptible, collective where wisdom dispensed matched the whimsy of the townsfolks present. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, villagers continue to mill about, their interactions laden with the weight of goods and trust. Some enhance their protection with tokens of superstition, a sprig of rosemary here, a vibrant patch of fabric there, presence marking the symbolic fusion of belief and reality. Small acts steeped in tradition, like those who carry lucky talismans or encrypted passwords today, seeking reassurance amid life's unknown vicissitudes. As the shadows grow long and the marketplace begins its retreat into evening, let the tales of medieval crime and justice wend their way into your thoughts. Understand that even as security measures have evolved, along with the sophistication of crime, the human desire for integrity and safety remains constant, standing sentinel through the corridors of time. Entering the quiet embrace of night, let your thoughts drift, woven into the multi-layered tapestry of security that shapes our world, both then and now. Dreams steeped in history's lessons guide you, whispering softly of vigilance, improvisation, and resilience, reminders of an eternal vigilance as old as trade itself, stitched into dreams under the cover of star-filled skies. As dawn gracefully unfurls yet another day in the medieval village, you enter into a sphere of communal exchanges and secrets, a world coloured by consumer experiences and the ever-human tendency to voice dissatisfaction. Today, you delve into the narrative of medieval consumer complaints, a conversation not confined to modern forums or service reviews, but one rooted in an age-old marketplace where expectations and reality often diverged. Picture yourself among the throng of villagers bustling through the marketplace, each stall a microcosm of negotiation, excitement, and occasionally frustration. As you pass by, you catch snippets of muffled displeasure, shared in hushed tones, merchants not delivering on promises of quality, mysterious herbs failing to cure, or fabrics proving less durable than claimed. Even then, buyer's remorse was a familiar companion, shadowing each purchase with its sharp edge of disappointment. In this medieval world, where every transaction involved careful deliberation over what little currency was available, even minor grievances carried weight. A poor transaction could mark the difference between comfort and hardship, and villagers guarded their investments with wariness, akin to today's scrutiny of product reviews. Historians acknowledge the uniqueness of medieval consumer protection, lack thereof, where market missteps often required creativity to address. Unlike today's formalized return policies or consumer rights organizations, those dissatisfied found recourse in social networks, weaving their narratives within communal threads. The power of word of mouth shaped a merchant's reputation. Repeated offences could see a retailer's fortunes wane as surely as a poor harvest might wither a farmer's fields. A quirky tidbit you might appreciate: some markets adopted rudimentary complaint mechanisms, like a designated spokesperson, often a respected elder who mediated disputes. This informal arbitration system allowed villagers to air grievances publicly, restoring fairness in a way somewhat resembling today's customer service desk, albeit with a pinch more theatrical flourish and personable wit. As you wander past a group of animated villagers, their laughter peals out as they recount an amusing tale of a trickster who sold moonstones, in reality just well-polished river pebblestow, unsuspecting buyers one market day. While such tales inspired caution, they also served as entertainment, weaving legends that wove their humor into the tapestry of the community's shared experience. Merchants themselves, striving to maintain customer loyalty amidst this whirlwind of exchange, often leaned into inventive solutions. They might offer an additional good, steeped in careful charm, seeking to rectify oversights with the gentleness of a crafted apologia gesture reminiscent of today's complimentary coupons or promotional offers extending tokens of goodwill. Yet occasionally, villagers resorted to grand displays of dissatisfaction. A mismatched marriage of bargaining gone awry and ingenuity might lead to vegetable-toting rebukes, shop fronts pinned by talismans of discontent, inviting sympathy from bystanders. These impromptu shows bridged frustration with communal participation, coaxing apologies from tradesmen caught in unwitting exchanges. As the day rolls into its gentle twilight, merchants linger at their stalls, processing the day's interactions with a mix of grace and grit, kneading their reputations with just enough flair to keep the scales of commerce even. They tidy away their wares, hoping to mend rifts as the moonrise signals closure and another dawn where balance can once again be pursued. In the soothing arms of night, allow your thoughts to dance with stories of a marketplace vibrating with the music of human interchanger, chorus of dreams and pitfalls, awash in the shared joys and woes of economic life. As you drift into sleep, remember that our desire for fairness and satisfaction, as ancient as the trade itself, weaves through time like a silken thread, looping and twisting through the fabric of human existence, cradling midnight whispers, nudging gently across dream's gentle arc. As the early light spreads softly across the rooftops of the medieval village, the landscape reveals a tapestry interwoven with the broader strokes of war and politics. Today, you navigate the intricate impact these forces wield on the marketplacea realm, where shattered peace, shifting power, and each skirmish ripple through every purchase and transaction. As you wander amongst the stalls, the atmosphere brims with the echoes of conversations about recent events, territorial disputes, royal edicts, rumors of alliances, and betrayals. Each announcement or murmur of conflict sends ripples through the village, instantly altering the landscape of trade. What was once abundant may become scarce as resources are diverted for war efforts, replacing plentiful goods with whispers of shortage. Imagine the heightened tension that accompanies tales of nearby battles or skirmishes over contested lands, each tale furtively conveyed among merchants and customers alike. Such narratives may not only shape perceptions but dictate tangible realities: military need commandeering local food supplies, or coins pulled from circulation to fund levies and pay soldiers. These political undercurrents, historians muse, echo through time, where today's trade wars and embargoes cast shadows across global markets with similar subtlety. Step closer, and you may overhear snippets about fluctuations in commodity values as the air thrums with uncertainty. Is grain more precious than gold? Will salt become as treasured as spices? These dilemmas echo the questions traders negotiated daily, balancing between what to save, sell, or relinquish. In this arena, war is not just conflict, but a catalyst for both deprivation and ingenuity. Merchants pivoting towards alternatives, local production swelling in creative response to embargoed luxuries. One might even catch tales of black markets emerging in obscure alleys, where now forbidden imports change hands cautiously beneath watchful eyesight, practice resonant of today's industries shadowed by sanctions, both then and now, entwining economic sustenance with a dagger's flinch. You stumble across a quaint tidbit within, a village blacksmith narrating the tale of a sword, melted and forged anew to fashion a plough. Poignant reflection of resilience that brings to mind the perennial hope promised in peace's rare blooms amid prolonged frost. Such transformations underscore that duality is never far from reach, where the songs of battle at dawn can shift toward rebuilding by dusk. But wars end, as do regimes, and with them come new beginnings, a fragile equilibrium restored, bolstering renewed trade lines as once interrupted shipments resume their passage. The aftermath rings out clearly when the market bounces back with vitality, as erstwhile strained resources flow freely like springs released from winter's icy grasp. Crafters' skills may flourish or flag during conflict, influencing trends and commodities felt generations after battle fades. These rebounding economies learn, adapt, leveraging innovations, technologies infused during strife that find peacetime purpose, exploring untended fields through nurturing soils stained by soldiers' regrets. As the sun dips beneath the horizon, casting long shadows over rows lined with possibility, the villagers wrap their day's toil spiritedly, warmed by the communal exchange that helps them buffer against the oscillations of fortune fashioned beneath political banners. With the night's gentle sigh, sway your thoughts toward the eternal ties that lash politics and prices in this unceasing dance. Unwind and drift into dreams, sewn from tales where your life's tapestry is but another thread, stretching forth through valleys shrouded in possibility. Reflection infinitely varied, soaring beneath midnight's starry archive, heralding promise and peace beyond the woven brocade of history itself. As the warm glow of the morning sun bathes the medieval village, a new day dawns, hinting at the subtle transformations time ushers in. Today, you find yourself at the cusp of a transitional era, where the practices of shopping, shaped and honed over centuries, begin to evolve. You stand at this crossroads, where the old world of medieval commerce gives way to the early whispers of modernity. Strolling through the market, you notice an increasing complexity in transactions. The barter system, once dominant, is gradually being overshadowed by the growing importance of coinage and standardized currency. The once familiar clink of coins has turned from rare to routine, signaling a shift toward a more interconnected economy. Merchants, aware of broader trade routes, subtly adjust their wares to accommodate new tastes and demands trickling in from far-off lands. Imagine conversations spilling over with tales of trade caravans, expanding horizons, new routes carved through ancient landscapes, bringing with them goods and influences that broadened the medieval mind. Silks from the East, spices with exotic allure, and innovations from other cultures slowly filter through, challenging traditional norms and piquing curiosity. It's akin to how today's global trade continuously exposes you to cultural exchange, offering a myriad of choices in local stores that speak of distant origins. Historians often reflect on this period as a precursor to the sophisticated trade networks that define our modern world. It was a time when guilds began to fragment, as merchants sought new alliances beyond local loyalties, forming early commercial ventures and societies. This evolution mirrors cooperative business practices today, where strategic partnerships span borders and industries, leveraging collective strength through shared objectives. As you wander, you glean snippets about the evolving role of fairs, once seasonal spectacles, now becoming more interwoven into the structure of urban commerce. Merchants capitalize on these gatherings to establish lasting connections, creating nascent trade fairs, a sign of future shifts where specialized markets dominate, echoing the trade shows or expos familiar in contemporary culture. A delightful tidbit emerges from the clamor. Some enterprising merchants begin experimenting with written receipts, a practice still burgeoning yet indicative of the desire for greater clarity and trust in transactions. This humble innovation, which may seem elementary to you today, was radical at the time, a foundation for accounting practices that would underpin burgeoning economies. Step back and consider the slow, inexorable vein of progress, threading its way through the marketplace, the subtle shift from goods and services being exchanged under the open skies of village squares to whispers of shops dedicated to particular crafts. These early stores consolidate various trades, ensuring availability year-round and foreshadowing retail establishments brimming along urban avenues. You overhear discussions about the future, spoken with cautious optimism of dreams spun in the ether of burgeoning businesses that transcend traditional boundaries. A chorus, not unlike the speculative ventures that characterize startups today. The seeds of capitalism sprout quietly amidst the cobbled streets, tended by merchants who dare to dream beyond restrictions. As the day wanes and villagers begin to conclude their business, you sense the market's dynamism. With each closing stall, the potential for innovation unfolds, hinting at a future crafted by ambition and necessity. These aspirations, whispered in today's marketplace, become tomorrow's steadfast industries, shaping the way commerce and culture entwine. As twilight deepens into night, and you withdraw into the gentle embrace of rest, let your thoughts linger on the cusp of change. This moment, both ending and beginning, captures an extraordinary phase where the past meets the future, echoing through the dreams delicately cradled in sleep's embrace. As you drift into a tranquil slumber, hold close the promise of growth and transformation, understanding that at the heart of every change lies the enduring spirit of progress, spun gently forth through the loom of time, stretching infinitely onwards. As the sun rises over the medieval village one last time in our journey, a gentle nostalgia embraces the landscape where paths lined with cobblestones have borne the footprints of countless souls, each weaving stories through time's undulating course. Today, you stand at the reflective edge of our exploration, contemplating the rich tapestry that threads the bygone world of medieval peasant shopping. As you stroll along the familiar market, its stalls now alive with familiarity, there's a soothing predictability to the hustle and bustle. Each merchant is a sentinel of time-honored tradition, every whispered exchange a note in the symphony of commerce that resonates through history. The aromas, once overwhelming, now blend into a fragrant remembrance marked by bread's comforting warmth and the scent of fresh herbs, an aromatic balm at the end of our journey. Pause and observe the villagers as they move with practiced gracia, seamless dance refined over generations. The art of bartering, coin-filled purses, reflecting new economic structures, the kaleidoscopic fairs, and the guild-sanctioned quality assurance have shaped these medieval lives into a vibrant community bound by resilience and hard-won contentment. Historians often debate the long-term impacts of these ancient practices on modern systems. Yet, the echoes of medieval markets endure, seen in today's local farmer stalls evoking the spirit of personal trade, in community events that echo fair's kinship, in craftsmanship that values human touch, and in the enduring balance of tradition with innovation. A final tidbit whispers through. Remember the surprise and delight that accompanied a rare luxury? That same thrill stirs within modern consumers, reminding you of the timeless allure when the rare becomes possession. Such joys bind threads spanning centuries, echoing through time's canopy. As shadows lengthen and the sky softens into the colors of dusk, imagine the stories continuing, carried forward by those who follow. Meanwhile, you step back, aware of how medieval life, though long past, pulses vividly within you, weaving time into a present capable of innovation, knowledge, and compassion. Slow the pacing. Feel the gentle rhythm lull as you wander from this marketplace, mindful of the paths you have traveled through history's embrace. The night brings solace in its hushed whispers, as stars flicker along your thoughts, turning backward glances into forward strides. Rest now, content in the knowledge you carry. May dreams gentle your passage through night's tender chapter, where reflections of men and women who once walked alongside you as a shared memory, a collective whisper guide you to the hopeful dawn of your own unfolding narrative. Sweet dreams.